Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are doing good. Children, as you all are aware that we had started chapter 10 yesterday, that is motion and measurement of distances. Now motion, as we have done yesterday, that motion means anything which shows movement is said to be in motion. Anything which shows movement is said to be in motion. Then if anything which is not showing motion is said to be at rest. So these two terms you are going to mentioning everywhere where you are supposed to mention like one thing which is in motion and other which is at rest. So motion which is showing a movement and thing is at rest when it is not showing any motion. So motion, a particular definition of motion is an object is said to be in motion or moving when its position changes with time. For example, if a car is standing at this moment at one place and after some time, after 1 minute or 2 minutes, we will find it out that car on some other location. So position or location, position is keep on changing with respect to time. So that is said to be in motion. But if a car which is standing on a road and moving straight, showing a motion, then we say that a car is showing motion. But on that particular time, a tree which is placed on the side of a road, that tree is not showing movement. So we'll say that tree is at rest. Or a house which is on the side of road, that house is not moving along with the car. So we'll say that that house is at rest. Now what do you mean by in terms of science we are going to mention it that an object is said to be in motion and an object is said to be at rest. Now after that we had started types of motion. If anything is showing motion, then there must be a certain types of motion or different types of motion there will be. So types of motion is like the motion can be divided into certain types. First, which we have done yesterday, that is rectilinear motion. If an object is moving in a straight line, is said to be in rectilinear motion. Straight line motion is mentioning that rectilinear motion. And number 2 we have done, that is circular motion. When an object moves in the form of circle, means each position is equidistant from the center. Each position is equidistant from center. Then we can say that object is in circular motion. For example, our moon is a natural satellite of Earth and moon revolves around Earth, that is a circular motion. So a round path having a shape of a circle is called circular path. When an object moves along a circular path, it is called circular motion. So example, you can give many example of circular motion, like hands of your watch, they are also showing a circular motion. Then a boy which is going to tie a stone with a string and revolving it and rotating it. So that is also showing circular motion. After that, in types of motion, next number 3, that is periodic motion, that we are going to do it today. Types of motion. First we have done rectilinear, number 2 we have done circular motion, and 3 is your periodic motion. Third one is periodic motion. Now what do you mean by periodic motion? Periodic motion means that motion which repeats itself after a equal interval of time. So the motion which repeats itself after a regular interval of time is called periodic motion. Now in your clock you will be finding that the hands are revolving and they are, or that second hand, the second hand is revolving and it is showing the same movement after a regular interval of time. After 5 seconds, that after 60 seconds again that hand is started moving. So the second hand of a watch take the same time or 60 seconds to complete each round. Now that is the motion of second hand of a watch is repeated after regular interval of time. So the motion of second hand of a watch is an example of periodic motion. Similarly, the movement of minute hand, hour hand, they are also showing the periodic motion. Now the revolution of Earth around the Sun is a periodic motion. That Earth is taking equal interval of time, or like 365 days to revolve around Sun. Every time, every year the Earth is taking that much time only to revolve around Sun. So a periodic motion, a simple definition, the motion which repeat itself after a regular interval of time. The motion which repeat itself after a regular interval of time. The revolution of Earth around the Sun is a periodic motion because the Earth always takes time to complete one revolution or one round around the Sun. Now the rotation of Earth on its axis is an example of periodic motion because the Earth always takes the same time to rotate once on its axis. Now the revolution of the moon around the Earth is also a periodic motion. Now whichever natural satellite which is revolving around it, or artificial satellite which is revolving in the universe, which is revolving in the space around our Earth or around Sun or around any other planet, they were taking same time. So that is an example of periodic motion. Now here I am going to mention the periodic motion of a pendulum. Pendulum, that is clock. In clock you might have seen the pendulum. Such kind of a pendulum, bob pendulum or pendulum you have seen in that clock. And this pendulum is going to take equal time to move from here to here. That is going to take equal time. It is moving here and here, and it is taking equal time to shifting from position A to B, and then again come to position A and then goes to position C. So this pendulum, motion of a pendulum, is also an example of motion of a pendulum, is also an example of this periodic motion only, since it repeats after an equal interval of time. As much time this pendulum is going to take it to shift from position A to B, the same time this pendulum is going to take it to shift from A to C. So this shifting of position, that is your that takes same period of time. That is why that is an example of periodic motion. Even the swing also, the swing in the park you might have seen, that swing is also showing same kind of a movement. The swing is taking that equal time to shift from position A to B and B to A. They are taking the same or equal time to shift. So now that in a pendulum consists of a small metal ball which is called bob. Now small metal ball which is called bob, B-O-B, bob. So bob suspended by a long thread from a rigid support such that the bob is free to swing back and forth. A pendulum is shown in figure 6a. Initially the pendulum bob is positioning at A, then A to B, then B to C, such kind of a to and fro movement that pendulum is going to show. The same pendulum we can find it out in the clock also. And then what else we will be finding it out, like in what else things we have in which they have periodic motion. So here we can take an example of musical instrument also, like musical instruments such as sitar or guitar. They have stretched string or stretched wire which produce sound, when plucked. So they are going to wait for that time duration only, and same sound or same vibration, a vibration is taking as much time. That much time was taken up by that string each time. Now this kind of an activity you all can do it. You can tie a string on a table or with a particular door, and then you stretch it, and then you start stretched it and then plucked that string, and then you find it out that is producing that vibrating sound, and each time this vibrating sound is taking equal interval of time. Then tablas and all these instruments will be included in this periodic motion only. So what do we understand about periodic motion? Let's revise once. Now periodic motion, the motion which repeats itself after a regular interval of time, means the same kind of a motion we can see after a regular interval of time. Like we had taken example in your watch, that in watch the second hand is going to revolve around. After a 60 second, after a complete one rotation, then again the minute hand or second hand is going to take that much time only to revolve it around it. Revolution of Earth also. Earth is also taking 365 days to complete one rotation around or revolution around Sun. Pendulum, then we had taken example of pendulum, a metal pendulum which is called bob, and we kept it on a position A. Now we tied it in such a way that it can be swinged easily to and fro position, and if we start swinging it, it is going to take equal time, as much time it is going to take from A to B, then A to C. So same kind of to and fro motion we can find it out in pendulum. Then in all these musical instrument is also showing such or same kind of a motion. So that is your periodic motion. You can do an activity also. You can stretch a string and then you pluck it. You will find it out that once you will plugged it, it is going to vibrate for same time when you plugged it again. So that is a periodic motion, and that is occurring till an equal interval of time. So in vibration, wherever you are going to find it out, vibration like in guitar, sitar, tabla, all these are showing periodic motion. Like in tabla, the drums or the tabla, they have thin stretched membrane or skins tied over the top of their open ends. Now if we place some tiny piece of paper on the stretched membrane of a drum, say tabla, and strike the membrane gently, we'll find that the piece of a paper start dancing up and down on the membrane of the drum. This is because when we strike the stretched membrane of a drum, the membrane starts vibrating or moving up and down by a small distance. The tiny pieces of paper moving up and down with a vibrating drum membrane and hence appear to be dancing on it. Thus, when a drum such as tabla or dholak is struck, its membrane vibrates and shows periodic motion. The vibration of stretched membrane like that of a tabla also produce musical sound. Now please note that the periodic motion shown by a pendulum, a swing, stretched string of sitar or a guitar and a stretched membrane of tabla or dholak is actually a special type of a periodic motion which is more commonly known as vibratory motion or oscillatory motion. So in this, when vibrations are produced, then that particular type of motion is known as vibratory motion or oscillatory motion. So periodic motion, when it repeats after a regular interval of time, vibratory and oscillatory motion when we stretch the membrane and then it is showing the same kind of a movement each and every time. So that is known as vibratory or oscillatory motion. So children, in this periodic motion we have understood two more motion, that is vibratory or oscillatory motion. Periodic motion, then after that when we make any movement on that membrane, that is also showing vibratory or oscillatory motion. Then we'll come to our fourth type of motion, that is rotational motion. Let's come to our fourth type of motion, that is rotational motion. So I hope this is clear to you all. Now we'll come to number 4, that is rotational motion. Rotational motion. So we are going to find it out, this rotational motion. Rotational motion, when an object turns or spins about a fixed axis. When an object turns or spins about a fixed axis. If its axis is fixed and about its axis they are going to spin on a fixed axis. So that is known as, it is called rotational motion. For example, a spinning top or a lattu that moves around and round on its axis. So the motion of a spinning top is an example of rotational motion. So rotational motion means a place which is stick on its axis. Axis is stick and then it is rotating. So our earth also turns round and round on its axis like a spinning top. So the spinning of earth is also an example of rotational motion. Some other examples like turning of the blades of a fan, that is also rotation of a windmill, that is also an example of rotational motion. Turning of a bicycle wheel, of a car wheel, that is also showing rotational motion. So the difference between circular motion and rotational motion. Now you are going to ask, ma'am, in circular motion also they are revolving round and round only. So what is the difference between circular motion and rotational motion? In circular motion they will be moving round, but it is not necessary that the axis is same. But in rotational motion, object of a whole travels along a circular path, but in rotational motion the object spins on its axis. The object is not moving round and round. So that is fixed on one place. So that is the difference between circular motion and rotational motion. I'll repeat it once again. The difference between circular motion and rotational motion is that in circular motion an object as a whole travels along a circular path. As a whole it travels along the circular path. But in rotational motion the object spins on its sides. Okay. Now there are certain cases, like in a few more cases we will be finding that they will be having more than one, or they will be possessing an object which is having more than one type of motion. In case of Earth also, Earth, they is showing a circular motion also. The Earth is showing periodic motion and rotational motion. 3 types of motion. So we will be finding certain objects which is showing, like some object may have more than one type of motion. Yes, it is at the same time. In other words, some of the object may have a combination of 2 or more different types of motion. This will becomes clear from the following example. Now, like in the case of Earth, if we see that the Earth moves around the Sun, so it is a circular motion. Then Earth repeats its motion after a regular interval of time, then it is a periodic motion. And then Earth spin on its axis, then that is a rotational motion. So in case of Earth, we will be finding that Earth is showing more than one type of a motion. Like Earth is showing circular motion revolving around in circular path. Then number 2, it repeats its position after a regular interval of time, that is periodic, and revolving around its axis, that is rotational. Now the case of merry-go-round. Merry-go-round is showing rotational motion fixed on its axis and revolving it, rotational motion and circular motion. Since as a whole it is revolving in round and round direction. The case of bicycle, again bicycle, the wheels are rotating on its axis but moving in straight line, so it is showing rotational as well as rectilinear motion. 2 types of motion, rotational and then moving in straight line, that is rectilinear. Then the case of a ball, again ball is also revolving on its axis, that is rotational, as well as moving in straight line, that is rectilinear motion. Then swing machine, again swing machine is showing rotational motion. Its wheel of swing machine is rotating on its axis and then showing periodic motion also. The same circle it is going to repeat it after an equal interval of time. So you can or you may find it out certain more examples in which more than one type of motion is shown. More than one type of a motion you can find it out in that particular object. So that these are the certain cases which I have taken example, like cases of Earth, cases of merry-go-round, cases of bicycle, ball and swing machine, in which you can find it out more than one type of a motion. So children, with this we have finished types of motion. We have done 4 types of motion, that is first rectilinear, then circular motion, periodic motion and rotational motion. Then object having more than one type of motion. Object having more than one type of a motion. So one type of a motion, if you want to show it to that, what you are going to find it out, that yes, there are certain objects which are showing more than one type of a motion. Like the case of Earth, the case of merry-go-round, Earth is showing 3 types of motion that I have mentioned just now: circular motion, rotational motion and as well as periodic motion. Okay, so these are certain types of motion. Now here I am going to mention a short story of transport. How this type of motion is helped in the transport. So earlier, what do you mean by transport? Transport means when we are shifting or when we are carrying load from one place to another place. Whether we are carrying it on our head, whether we are carrying it through animal, cart or ships, or we are using donkeys, whichever ways we will be using. So that is your carrying transport. The story of transport, what is that? To carry people and goods from one place to another is called transport. So what is the story behind this transport? We'll discuss here, or I am going to tell you a short story. That is to carry people and goods from one place to another place. If we are carrying people or things or luggage from one place to another place is called transport. Now we will now discuss how people traveled and carried their goods from one place to another place in earlier times. Now how they do it these days. Long ago people do not have or did not have any means of transport. So in ancient time people used to move on foot or animals and carried goods themselves, or they used animal for this purpose. For example, in the ancient time they used to travel on horseback, camelbacks, etc. And also they used them to carry their loads, like animals like donkeys, they will be used to carry heavy loads. In ancient time people, they also use boat to move from one place to another place, or carrying loads if they are supposed to move it in waterways. If they are supposed to move it in waterways, they will be moving through boats. So that is one of the way of transport. Initially the boats were very simple, that is they are making donkey type boat and they are carrying all the loads in that, and they are having boats, that is then they started making a proper streamlined shape boats which is easily movable in the water, and they can carry more and more loads in that. Later they learned how to join wooden plank, and then they can make boats having streamlined shapes. Now the invention of wheel made a great change in the mode of transport. Now the wheels were used to make the transport vehicles such as bull cart, horse carts and camel carts, etc. Now animals and bulls, horses and camels were used to pull the vehicles which moved on wheels. So after that boat, when they learn how to make boat, then the invention of wheel make an important change in their particular shifting from one place to another place. So they started using wheel, they started using bull cart, horse cart to move from one place to another place. Now this method or this way is suitable for animals also. They are also not getting harassed by carrying a lot of load, and they can be easily used for pulling that cart, and at one time they can carry more and more loads, more and more people from one place to another place. Now in the beginning of 19th century, the invention of steam engine. Now transport, after the invention of wheel, it does not stop only there. Then in the 19th century, in the beginning of 19th century, that invention of steam engine introduced a new source of power to run transport vehicles. Then steam engine which run on coal as a fuel for making steam were used to pull trains on railroads, railway track, for carrying people and goods from one place to another place. Now steam engines were also used to run ships in the beginning. Steam engines were only used in the huge ships also to moving in the water. After that, then we have invention of internal combustion engines, petrol and diesel vehicles. Rest other inventions were started to cover long and long distance in a short duration of time. Nowadays we have aeroplanes, we have other shortest way to cover long distances. So that will be there. So that we are going to cover in the next class. That is how these invention help to cover long and long distances. So the next topic, that is distance, that we will be starting in a next class. Today I'll be finishing the class here. That's all for today, children. Have a good day.